Now, security analyst Ryan Cummings joins us on the line. Ryan, a very good morning to you and thanks for your time. As we've been hearing this morning, West African military forces poised to move in. We know that Senegal's troops might already be in Gambia, but Gambia's military leader saying that he's not going to risk the lives of his men. He says this is a political dispute and it's not something for the military to get involved in. So what does all of this mean for Yahya Jammeh? And like our previous expert said, it really seems like he doesn't have much of a choice but to pack up and go.
This definitely seems the case that Jammeh has run out of lives, so to say, in terms of his political longevity. I think the main concern is we do have reports of, possible ECOWAS intervention, but I think from a legal standpoint, they are still negotiating with the United Nations in terms of passing a draft resolution over the course of the day, which would further add credence, to their so-called intervention in a separate sovereign state. At this stage, Jammeh, obviously with the chief of staff of the military stating that they will not get involved in this conflict because it's a political dispute and they're not willing to risk their men, obviously it suggests that the only sort of buttress that Jammeh has against ECOWAS intervention and against, being removed from president has been lost with the military. There was quite an interesting development in Farafeni, which is on the North Bank division of Gambia, where it was even suggested that some of the troops stationed on the border had surrendered to Senegalese troops and would happily open the border so that the ECOWAS forces are able to infiltrate Gambian territory. So that definitely seems that the writing's on the wall for Jammeh at this stage.
Well, given that the Gambia's entire armed forces, Ryan, seem to be only made up of about 2,500 troops, it seems that there is very little choice. Is it perhaps that he's a bit deluded? I mean, seeing as he came to power in a military coup in 1994, thinking that that is something that is going to continue to hold him in that position?
I would definitely think so. I think Jammeh is a really eccentric president. We've heard his claims regarding finding a cure for the HIV virus, for example, and many other statements that he has made, which has kind of highlighted that he is extremely eccentric. And I think there is some suggestions of naivety from his side, that he would probably commandeer the support and wavering support of the armed forces, and also the possibility that there is going to be some form of negotiated settlement that will see him leave power with amnesty and potentially also with access to all of his resources, which I think is possibly the sticking point at this stage in terms of what his amnesty agreement will allow him, apart from safe passage out of Gambia, but also to ensure that, all resources and wealth that he accrued over his presidential tenure will still be secured.
Is there a danger that we might be misled by the standing of the military, that perhaps, yes, the military leader saying, I will not risk my men's lives, seeing as he only has 2,500 of them, and not take that as a sign that they're still not loyal to Yahya Jammeh, that also that if they do, they will stay on and stay in the country despite Adama Barrow coming into power, that they could cause trouble a little bit later then, maybe?
Well, I think that is an excellent point. I think if we look at the political history of the Gambia, and West Africa as a region, there has been a lot of coups d'etats that have occurred in the region. And I think an important aspect as well is that Jammeh was able to secure power through patronage of the military, through creating a very close circle of individuals that were given significant resources. And I think the key concern is if Barrow assumes power and obviously garners the loyalty of the military, if there's any moves against prosecuting so-called human rights abuses or other forms of malfeasance in the country, and you have senior figures in the military or within the state that are cited or implicated, for this acts of maladministration, and they need to be prosecuted, there is a very real chance that we could see members in the military trying to seize power or to just try and disrupt the presidency of Barrow to ensure that they are not prosecuted for any political crimes.
You also have to wonder, Ryan, if there is something or someone or some other force that is behind Yahya Jammeh's thinking. I mean, we know when these elections were held last month that he accepted it. And, there were free elections. He accepted the results and just days later saying, OK, I don't accept it. Then he goes on to tell regional leaders, OK, he has talked to them. He says, I will come and I will go into exile in this country, and then changes his mind again. Is there a possibility that there's an influence from somewhere else coming into his actions?
We can never discount that, but I do think that it does speak to, as I alluded to, the really erratic nature of Jammeh. I think what was key following his initial electoral concession was that the Speaker of Adamawa Barrow's Gopher Party, the main opposition party, came out and stated that they were going to go ahead and prosecute Jammeh as soon as Barrow assumed office, and he also made explicit to the fact that that Jammeh should actually be detained because there was concerns that he would go back to his so-called homeland area of Gambia, where he would have the resources to sponsor an insurgency against the government. And I think that this was extremely premature because at this time the state security apparatus had not been transferred from Jammeh over to Barrow because, as we know, the inauguration was only set for today. And I think that this is what prompted Jammeh to reverse his decision, just the concern that, he could face prosecution, he could be detained, and obviously his resources could have been seized as well. I think further on, the big concern for Jammeh is in terms of amnesty agreements. We recently saw Charles Taylor, for example, in Liberia, was also provided some form of amnesty deal following the conflict. However, we've seen that he's still facing prosecution, or was prosecuted by the ICC. So I think that there is this concern by Jammeh that he wants guarantees that when he leaves power, he'll be able to do so without any future prosecution. And I think there's also part of him that has this naivety that he has the ability. He's a strongman ruler, he's a former military man, and he probably expected the unwavering support of his military in ensuring that he holds onto power in the wake of external military intervention by Senegal and the rest of the ECOWAS force.
And very quickly for us, Ryan, I mean, we already seeing thousands of Gambians fleeing into Senegal, and it is a situation that needs to be resolved rather quickly before this becomes a bigger disaster than what it already is. And what would it take to get him to pack up and go?
Yeah, I think it's massively so. And I think that if we look at the West Africa region and some of the other regions of Africa, we have seen the impact that political instability has in one country and its geopolitical fallout within the region. And I think that this is the key concern. The key issue is that there needs to be a peaceful settlement to this issue. Any intervention by the military, and if there are still loyalists to Jammeh, I mean, possibly his Praetorian or Presidential Guard might still be loyal to him, and they could seek to forcibly resist any ECOWAS forces. I mean, the impact of violence in the country and the concerns of collateral damage is going to cause serious concerns for the country's economy, specifically the tourism sector, which is still the bloodline of Gambia's economy. So the main issue is that the negotiated settlement that we have to this conflict needs to be a peaceful one, and ensure that we do see the reinstatement of Barrow, the removal of Jammeh with minimal violence. It needs to really be the last resort. But I do think that ECOWAS's intentions have been made explicit to Jammeh. The military themselves have obviously noted that they're not going to, to defend his presidency. And I think all of these incidents and developments over the past 12 hours or so will probably convince the now illegitimate president to transfer power peacefully. At least that's what I hope.
Do you think that he can make good on his threat that if he can't rule Gambia, he'll ruin it?
No, I don't think so. I don't think with losing the loyalty of the military, or at least they're not willing to take up arms for him. I don't think that he has the resources, or Gambia is a very small country, and there's not significant ethnic cleavages that Jammeh could leverage off to kind of create an insurgency. So I think that this is another empty threat by a long-serving strongman president who has lost power and is in completely unfamiliar territory.
Thanks very much for the insight, security analyst Ryan Cummings. A short break, more for you when we come back.